The applause thundered across the packed auditorium as names echoed through the loudspeakers, parents cheering, siblings waving balloons, friends screaming congratulations. And then there was me, sitting alone in a folding chair, adjusting my cap for the 100th time, pretending not to notice the empty seats where my family should have been. No texts. No calls. Nothing. 3 months earlier, I'd mailed the invitations myself, printed envelopes, handwritten notes. Dad had laughed on the phone, said a software engineering degree was for boys. Mom had stayed silent, her quiet disapproval cutting deeper than words. My sister, Veronica, had simply rolled her eyes. When my name was called, I stood and crossed that stage with my heart pounding and my hands trembling. The dean shook my hand. The camera flashed. I smiled for a photograph meant for no one. That empty chair in the audience became a symbol of every dinner table conversation where my ambitions were mocked. I drove back to my apartment with the diploma on the passenger seat, stopped for takeout Chinese, and scrolled through social media, classmates surrounded by families beaming with pride. My screen blurred as tears finally fell. That night, I made a quiet promise to myself. I'd stop begging for approval from people who refused to see me. 2 days later, an email arrived from Cloud Tech Systems, Senior Implementation Specialist, $85,000 plus bonus. I stared at it in disbelief. I'd done it. I'd earned this on my own. I called home, expecting, foolishly, pride. Dad was in a meeting. Mom said, "That's nice, but could you help your sister find a job?" Veronica grabbed the phone to complain about her resume. No congratulations. No joy, just expectation. Something inside me hardened. They had ignored my graduation. Now they wanted my connections. 2 weeks later, when my phone lit up again with Mom's number, her tone was suddenly warm, sugary, rehearsed. "I've been telling everyone how successful you are at that big tech firm," she said, before slipping in. "Your sister's still job hunting. Maybe they're hiring?" I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "They are," I said softly. Her voice lifted with relief. "Just not for her." And in that moment, I realized something powerful. My silence would speak louder than their neglect ever had. The glass towers of downtown Seattle reflected a version of myself I barely recognized. Confident, purposeful, finally free. Cloud Tech Systems wasn't just a job. It was validation. 12 floors of innovation and intellect, where people valued skill over pedigree. On my first day, Patricia, my manager, brilliant, sharp-eyed, greeted me with genuine excitement. My co-workers invited me to lunch, asked about my ideas, and actually listened. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the strange girl obsessed with code. I was part of something that mattered. Then, the phone calls began again. At first, I ignored them. But by the third missed call, curiosity got the better of me. Mom's voice chirped through the line, all honey and pride. "Your father and I are so happy for you, dear. I was telling my friends how you're working at that huge cloud company. Oh, and Veronica's still looking for opportunities. Do you think you could put in a good word?" I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the skyline. A good word. That's all they wanted from me now. "Sure," I said slowly. "But the job requires technical experience." "Oh, she learns fast," Mom insisted. "Family helps family, family." The word hit like a slap. I thought of that empty graduation chair and their laughter when I told them about my degree. "I'll see what I can do," I replied and hung up. For the next week, the pressure escalated. Mom called daily. Veronica texted at midnight. "Any updates?" Dad left a voicemail about the importance of family networking. I responded to none of it. Instead, I buried myself in my first major assignment, a full cloud migration for a national pharmaceutical client. Complex, intense, exactly what I craved. I worked late nights mapping systems, creating strategies, finding elegance in logic. When our presentation went flawlessly, Patricia took me aside. "You've got something rare," she said. "Technical brilliance and communication skills. Cloud tech needs leaders like you." Her words filled a void my parents never could. 3 weeks later, I finally returned my mother's call. She answered instantly, breathless with expectation. "So, did you talk to HR?" "I did," I said truthfully. "They're hiring. But Veronica doesn't meet the qualifications." "Oh, come on. She could start anywhere, secretary, assistant." "Even those roles require certifications," I replied evenly. "She can apply online like everyone else." The silence on the other end thickened into anger. "You've changed," Mom said coldly. "You think you're better than us now." "No," I said, my voice calm, steady. "I just finally see things clearly." Veronica applied anyway. 4 days later, she received her rejection email. Polite, predictable, professional. She forwarded it to me with an angry paragraph calling me heartless. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, turned off my phone, and returned to my code. For the first time, the guilt was gone. They had spent years dismissing my dreams. Now they could watch me live them, without their permission. By July, I had stopped checking my phone for their names. My world had expanded far beyond them. Projects, clients, strategy sessions, late-night brainstorming with Patricia over coffee. Every success felt like a step away from my family's shadow. Then, Patricia called me into her office one Thursday afternoon. Her smile was the kind that made your pulse quicken. "The pharmaceutical project was a hit," she said. "The client referred us to 3 more corporations. The board's creating a new position, Director of Enterprise Implementation. They want you." For a heartbeat, I couldn't speak. Director. After only 3 months. My salary would jump, my responsibilities triple. I walked out dazed, fighting back tears. I wanted to call my parents, to hear my father say, "We're proud of you." But I stopped myself. They hadn't celebrated my degree. They hadn't celebrated my job. Why would they celebrate this? That evening, I called Julia, my college roommate. She screamed so loud I laughed till I cried. My coworkers took me out for dinner. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who cared simply because I'd earned it. A week later, my phone rang again. Mom. She had heard from a friend about my promotion. She sounded proud, but the pride felt rehearsed, performative. Then came the inevitable line. "Since you're in a leadership position now, maybe you could help Veronica?" She's still struggling. There it was, and the real reason. I swallowed my frustration. "Let me think about it," I said, my voice steady. But instead of fury, an idea began to take shape. Something poetic. Something that would teach them exactly what it took to succeed in my world. Cloud Tech had a demanding internship program. 3 months, paid, designed for non-technical applicants wanting to pivot careers. Only 30% ever finished it. It was brutal, technical, relentless, honest, perfect. That weekend, I called Mom back. "I've been thinking," I said gently. "There's an internship that might suit Veronica. It's competitive, but I can recommend her." Mom gasped with gratitude. "Oh, sweetheart, I knew you'd come through." I submitted the referral Monday morning, fully transparent. Veronica Miller, business background, transitioning to tech, sister of a company director. The coordinator, Trevor, thanked me and scheduled her interview. When Veronica called after the interview, her excitement was almost contagious. "They loved me," she said. "I can totally handle this tech stuff." 3 days later, the acceptance email arrived. Veronica Miller, Cloud Tech intern, 25 an hour. Start date, September 1st. Mom called, ecstatic. "We're so proud of you, honey," she said, meaning herself, of course. Dad even texted, "Good job, kiddo." For once, I didn't correct him. I just smiled at my reflection and whispered, "Let's see how far she gets when the only thing that matters is effort." The first whispers reached me before the second week ended. Veronica had been late twice during orientation. She'd spent half her time scrolling through her phone and had asked if all these tech lectures were really necessary. Typical. By her 11th day, even Trevor, the internship coordinator, came to my office, uncomfortable, holding a thin folder. "I just wanted to give you a heads up," he said carefully. "Since Veronica's your sister," I nodded. He sighed. "She's struggling. Attendance issues, low engagement, and a lot of entitlement." I gave him a calm smile. "Handle it as you would with anyone else." He exhaled with relief. "I appreciate that." When Veronica called me that afternoon, her voice was sharp. "They're being unfair," she snapped. "The work is boring and they treat me like some trainee." I thought this was marketing. "It's technology," I said evenly. "You wanted a job here? This is what it takes." "They're targeting me because of you," she shouted. "No, Veronica. They're treating you like every other intern." She hung up. 3 days later, she was dismissed. Late again, disrespectful, careless. Escorted out by security. Standard protocol. When Mom called, her voice was pure fire. "You set her up to fail." I let her rage spill. "Veronica got the same opportunity as anyone else," I said quietly. "What she did with it was her choice. You could have protected her." "Protected her from what, accountability?" Dad took the phone, his tone cold. "Family helps family, not humiliates them." "I gave her a chance," I said. "She just didn't take it." That silence on the other end felt like a door closing, maybe for good. Within hours, the storm spread through our extended family. My aunt texted, "You should have been more patient." My cousin wrote, "You're lucky to be smart. Help those who aren't." I stopped replying. I had spent my whole life making myself small to make them comfortable. Not anymore. Patricia came by my office later that week, eyes full of quiet understanding. "I heard about your sister," she said softly. "You handled it with integrity. That's rare." Her approval mattered more than 100 family apologies ever could. Still, the silence that followed was heavy. No calls, no texts. Just the echo of everything I'd finally stopped chasing. But peace has a way of drawing out the next storm. By autumn, I was thriving. Cloud Tech's projects were booming, my team growing. I barely thought about my family anymore, until Thanksgiving. Mom called out of nowhere, voice trembling with warmth. "It's been too long," she said. "Come home for dinner, please." I hesitated. Part of me knew what this was. Yet part of me, the small aching part still longing to be seen, said yes. Maybe, just maybe, something had changed. Thanksgiving night. Portland shimmered under gold streetlights as I pulled up to the house I'd once called home. Same manicured lawn, same cold perfection. Inside, my mother greeted me with a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The dining room hadn't changed. Polished wood, family portraits, Veronica at the center of every frame. I was in the corners, half-cropped, a background character in my own family history. Dinner began with pleasantries. My father asked vague questions about work, not listening to the answers. My mother kept praising Veronica for reviving the family business. I sat there quietly, tasting the sweetness of distance more than the food itself. Then dessert came. pumpkin pie, coffee, and the real reason I'd been invited. My father cleared his throat, that signal from childhood before he made an announcement. "We've been talking," he began. "The company's growing fast. We need to modernize. Better systems, digital tracking, project automation. We thought you could help." My mother smiled. "We'd make you director of operations and technology. Same pay as your current job. Eventually, you and Veronica could run the company together." There it was, the hook, wrapped in nostalgia and flattery. They hadn't changed. They'd calculated. I set my fork down and looked at them, one by one. "Why now?" My father blinked. "Because family is more important than pride." "Wasn't I family when I graduated?" I asked softly. "When I got my first job? When you needed nothing from me?" My mother flinched. "That's unfair." "What's unfair," I said, "is that you only remember me when I'm useful." The silence grew thick. Veronica spoke next, eyes bright with practiced innocence. "You're being dramatic. We just want to move forward." I turned to her. "Move forward? You called me selfish for not handing you a job. You hung up when I asked what you'd ever done to support me. Tell me, Veronica, what's changed?" She looked down. No answer. My father's voice cut through, sharp. "Enough. You should be grateful we're offering this opportunity." I stood. "You should be grateful I showed up." He slammed his hand on the table. "If you walk out now, you're choosing your career over family." I met his gaze steadily. "No, I'm choosing respect over dysfunction." My mother began to cry. Soft, deliberate tears meant to draw me back. "I don't understand where this anger is coming from," she whispered. "It's not anger," I said, my voice calm and final. "It's clarity." I walked toward the door as my father called after me. "Blood is thicker than water. You can't run from family forever." I stopped and turned. "You're right," I said quietly. "But you've been quoting it wrong all along. The full phrase is, 'The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.' It means the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into." And then I left. The night air was cold, sharp, freeing. Each mile back to Seattle felt like shedding a lifetime of guilt. Months passed. My career soared. Cloud Tech's success became my legacy, not theirs. Then one day, an offer came. Vice President of Technology Implementation at a Fortune 500 company. I accepted. I never called home. They never apologized. Years later, standing in my glass-walled office overlooking the city, I realized the truth. The real revenge wasn't Veronica's failed internship. It wasn't walking out of that dinner. It was this: peace, power, and purpose earned entirely on my own. They had mocked the girl who studied code. Now, that girl had rewritten her own story, line by line, command by command, until it ran flawlessly. And somewhere in Portland, there was still an empty chair. But I no longer needed it filled.